Okay, Jaime Boker Or. 1 second.
Okay. Morning, Rabbi.
How you doing, honey? A lot of snow there or no?
Won't snow?
I'm joking.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. The video's good, Jaime? Okay. Okay. What day are we on? 12. 12. Boker Or Mevorach Rabotai Bekiim Bahalacha Volume 4, Day 12, page 31. These are very, very important topics that the Zohar Kadosh discusses. I'm sorry to tell you that it's neglected for whatever reasons, but it shouldn't be neglected constantly. And that is the Zohar Kadosh is very, very strict on wearing your talit and tefillin at home and leaving the house dressed. It sounds strange to Americans that have their kuracha in the shul, and we come to the shul, we get dressed. But the old timers, Kafahayim, Ben Ish Hai, all the greats would always get dressed at home because the Zohar Kadosh says when you leave your house with talet gadol, tefillin on your head and the arm, and mezuzah, so 4 angels immediately come next to the person and they protect him and they escort him and bring him to the shul. And then when he comes to the Bet Knesset, they make an announcement and they say, "Bring glory." Hashem makes an announcement in the heavens. Look at the one that's carrying the glory of the King, my nation that I take its pa'ah, that I take a glory in. And then he comes in the synagogue and he bows in front of God and he says, "Ishtahaveh elecha kodshecha biratecha." The Zohar Kadosh says, if you don't have your talit and tefillin when you come into the shul during the week, don't say that pasuk, because how can you say biratecha? How can you say I'm coming to you with fear? Where's the fear? Where's your talit? Where's your tefillin? So therefore, we said yesterday's halacha. It's better to do that. Again, this is not such an easy thing to do the way we live. I told you yesterday, Rabbi Yehuda Sadka alav Hashem for Purat Yosef. He used to come to the yeshiva and give a shiur. He got to the yeshiva early, so he couldn't put on his talit and tefillin because it was already before the zman. He would go back home. You believe he went back home, put the talit and tefillin, and then came back to the yeshiva. So it shows they were very, very, very strict on this. Okay, listen, if you can't do it every day, you should do it from time to time. The Ben Ish Chai writes that some people are scared that in the street is goyim. Okay, I don't know if there's goyim at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. You're driving your car to shul. What's the big concern? But let's say he's talking about Baghdad. There was goyim. So he said, make for yourself a very small pair of tefillin and put it on your head, cover it with the hat so they won't see it. Put a small tefillin on your arm, cover it with your shirt, make a small talit, like a scarf. Put it over your back, put your jacket over it so nobody will see anything. Then he gave a different solution in Rab Pa'alim. In Rab Pa'alim, he said that when you're home, put on tefillin benutam. He says it doesn't matter what tefillin you wear. The point is that you leave your house with tefillin, whether it's Rashi, whether it's the benutam, it doesn't matter. So he says, don't make a beracha. Put on the benutam at home, and then when you come to the Bet Knesset, you have a second pair in the shul, Rashi in the shul. Take off your benutam from there, put on Rashi, and then put on the benutam. So he's trying to figure out different solutions to make it easier for the person to put on his tefillin at home. But the question we have today is, what about Shabbat? Shabbat, we don't have tefillin. So the question is, do you need to have your talet on at home when you come into the Bet Knesset? Or do we say, no, it's only an inyan of the tefillin? So the Ben Ish Chai and others, the Kafahayim, they all agree, not the Ben Ish Chai, Kafahayim. He says the main item is tefillin. That During the week, they want you to come into the Bet Knesset with tefillin on. On Shabbat, you don't have to wear your talit when you come into the Bet Knesset. You could put your talit on in the shul itself, which is proof. He has three proofs. When during the week, when a person comes into the Bet Knesset with his tefillin, Hashem makes an announcement: give honor and yikar. Yikar is a respect, and we know tefillin is called yikar. LaYehudim hayta orah v'simcha v'nason bikar. Gemara says bikar elu tefillin. Furthermore, God says, and Yisrael asher becha et pa'ar, the Jewish people that I take glory, and the tefillin is called pe'er, like it says pe'er ka habush alecha. And we know that the tefillin shorosh instills fear in the nations of the world. B'yiratecha, that's the fear. So he says during the week the main concern is the tefillin. However, on Shabbat that there's no tefillin, you could walk into the Bet Knesset without a talit on. Bow in front of Hashem and say, and you have no worries at all. And like you see on Shabbat, you don't see people coming to shul on Shabbat in the street with the talit gadol on. No, on the Shabbat, they come to Bet Knesset regular. They walk into the Bet Knesset and then they get dressed in the Bet Knesset. And there's no problem whatsoever. Reb Chaim Palachi agrees with that. However, the Ben Ish Chai has a different opinion. The Ben Ish Chai said, well, on Shabbat, anyway, you're wearing talet katan, so therefore you have your talet on when you walk into the Bet Knesset, so it's okay. So it sounds like for the Ben Ish Chai, you should have a talet on, and he was just answering it up that you have your talet. So if a person doesn't have a talet katan for whatever reason, according to the Ben Ish Chai, he probably should put his talet gadol on outside the Bet Knesset and walk in already to the Bet Knesset. So, but again, the majority of opinions hold that all that we're saying now does not apply on Shabbat. Now, some have the custom, and this is a fix. Let's say you're going to go to the Bet Knesset during the week, and you can't wear your tefillin either because you're worried about goyim, or you're worried about, which in the olden days was a big concern, the smell. You have to remember, in the olden days, they didn't have sewage system like we have today. They had outhouses. They made in the streets. It was, very, very, very unsanitary, let's say. So to wear your tefillin like that in the street in front of all in the shul, it's walls. You're protected. You're indoors. But to walk with your tefillin in the street in the olden days was a risk. So the poskim held when you walk in the street with your tefillin and you pass what's called mibuot metunafot. These are the dirty alleys. You have to cover your tefillin. The shaliat is covered because it's under your arm, but the shilrosh is exposed. So either you take your kippah and you cover it like that, so it's not revealed, or you cover it with your hand. So that was a concern in the olden days. So some of the poskim said, you know what, in such a case, better to wear your tefillin in shul than to walk in the streets with the mivuot betunafot. That was actually the opinion of the Magen Abraham. The Mishnah Berurah brings that down as well. Not everybody agreed with it. Other opinions, Rabbi David ben Zimra, he said, what's the problem? Just cover it with your head. Cover it with your hat. Mishnah Berurah said, no, if there's dirt in the streets and there's alleyways that are filthy, better to go to the shul and put on the tefillin in the lobby. Like you see some people, when they come to Bet Knesset, they go into a separate room. It's not what the Zohar said, by the way. I don't want you to make that's not the Zohar. It's a fix. If you can't do the best items, so they tell, okay, come to the shul. Like you see sometimes the rabbi comes into the office over here. He puts on his tefillin, he comes out. Is that exactly what the Zohar said? No. They want you to leave your house with the tefillin. Okay, but if you can't because of goyim or because you're worried about the alleyways that are filthy, so therefore they said, come to the Bet Knesset, go into the lobby or go into a side room and get dressed. That was the opinion of most of the poskim, including the Mishnah Berurah. Now, when it comes to our times, I'm not too sure that we have this problem today. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman said, even in Israel, where they have those dumpsters, you know what I'm talking about in Israel? They have those, not like us. In America, New York, New Jersey, Florida, we have garbage cans. The garbage cans are covered. We take them out twice a week. Even when they're out, usually you don't smell anything, especially in the winter. So that we don't really have a problem with the especially like I told you, most of the people that are going to shul in Brooklyn or New Jersey, they're driving to shul. So you're not smelling anything. So that you really don't have that concern. Rabbi Eliashiv held that those bins in Israel have a din of mivuot betunafot, and therefore when you walk by them, you'd have to cover your tefillin. Acham ben Sion, he came along and he said it depends. If the garbage is penetrating over the sides of it, then it's a problem. If it's totally inside, it's not a problem. Okay, but we're not living in Israel. And therefore, that's not our concern. So I don't think we have a concern whatsoever to be worried about. Ela, the concern is lifestyle. Like I said yesterday, where do we keep our kuracha? In shul. So if you're going to follow this halakha, that means every day you have to take your kuracha home with you. Or you have to have, like the Ben Ish Chai said, a separate kuracha. Two, you have let's say you have a special talet and tefillin for this item. And what? You leave your house with it. But again, you have to bring it home every day. No matter what, unless you're not going to have 7 pairs. So you have to have every day a pair. Maybe that's a good idea. Buy a separate pair, small little pair. Because you don't want to have maybe big, whatever it is. Even a benutam, he says it's okay. Even though Arizal says you should always put on nashi before the benutam, for this it doesn't matter. For this you could put on nashi at home to fulfill this mitzvah, and then when you get to Bet Knesset, take it off and make the beracha on nashi, and then put on the benutam if you're putting them on separately. So then maybe buy a small little tefillin, buy a small talit, leave it at home. It's easy to take back and forth. The big kuracha, you're not going to take them every day. There's the sidur in it, you have the tzedakah, the ketoret. It's a big schlep to every day carry it home. But maybe you make yourself a little item for this thing. The only concern we have is what we said yesterday. Most of the time we come to shul, it's before the Zman. And Rabbi Yaakov Hillel wrote a teshuvah, and he said, if you come before the Zman, it doesn't apply this halacha. Then you came to the shul, and he didn't say you have to go back home. He said, as long as you came to shul, and he recommends it's better to come to learn early and not sit home and wait for the Zman so you can put on your talent if you home and leave the. There was some rabbis that said that. There were some rabbis that said, wait at home, but they're having their daf yomi, so sit on the Zoom. Don't leave your house. That's how serious they took it. Now that we gave the overview, let's go very quickly to Botai and knock off these halachot. Today we're reading halacha 16, 17, and 18. You ready? 16 very quickly. On Shabbat and Yom Tov, where there's no tefillin, you do not have to leave the house with your talit on. And some want to say, like the Ben Ish Chai, that it's enough to have your talit katan on, and therefore, which most people have the talit katan on. Listen, if you're not wearing a talit katan after Bekiim volume 3, then you're hopeless. After we talk so much about the talit katan and the wool and the size and all that, if you're still not wearing the talit katan, then bemet we can't. We really can't help. Anyway, so if a person is not wearing a talit katan, you want to hear something nice? I told this to the kids at Megan David yesterday. They went crazy. They're smart kids, these kids. So I told them a chidush. Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, they kept the whole Torah before it was given. Now, there's a big debate in the Gemara. How do we look at Abraham? Is he considered Jewish? Because now you're learning the Sugya ben Noah. Is Abraham considered Jewish? Or is he considered a ben Noah? What do you mean? He's Jewish. Of course he's Jewish. No. I know we look at him as Jewish because he's the first father. But halachically, is it Jewish? Maybe Jewish doesn't start till Har Sinai. That's when we start Jewishness. What is Abraham until that point? He's a tzaddik. But he's bound by Noah laws. Yeah. Until we get the Torah, which was at that time, there was no 613 mitzvot. He kept the 613 mitzvot voluntarily, but he didn't have it as a rule. When did the Jew become bound by the Tariag? Har Sinai. So there's a big question. How do you look at the Avot? Do you look at the Avot as Yehudim, Jews, or you look at them as Ben Noah? So you say, what's the difference? For their passport, for the birth certificate? What do I care? Yehudi, Ben Noah, what's the difference? I'll tell you the difference. If you look at Abraham as a Ben Noah, how did he keep Shabbat? Halakha says Ben Noah's not allowed to keep Shabbat. Ben Noach sheshavat hayav mitah. We say it in the prayers on Shabbat. Velo netato legoye ha'arasot. Velo nechalto le'ovdei elinim. Gam b'menuchato lo yishkiru arelim. Ki amecha Yisrael netato. And therefore, Abraham Abinu, if he's considered Ben Noah, how could you tell me he kept Shabbat? Now, on the other side, but he's Jewish. If you say he's Jewish, he has no choice. He has to keep Shabbat. So he's in a catch-27. what does he do in order to get around this dilemma? You understand the question? So there was a great to tell Abraham, don't keep Shabbat. Maybe he's Yehudi. To tell him to keep Shabbat. Maybe he's Ben Noah.
Can't win.
It's a lose-lose. So there was a great rabbi called Mahariel Diskin. Mahariel Diskin was a great rabbi. So he was so smart. He used to walk in the streets. I told the kids yesterday. He could look at a tree, and he could tell you how many leaves are on the tree, just by looking. He calculates the first row. He counts how many rows, the depth of it. Right away, 2 seconds, tell you how many. So there's a kid in the class, his grandson, Azrak. He's a wise guy. He's a good kid. He's a brilliant kid. He's like Mario Diskin. He has the brain of the Mario Diskin, this kid. So he tells me, why? I could do the same thing. You could do the same thing, Azrak. You could tell me how many leaves are on the tree. Yes, 100%. I tell him, okay. Tell me how many trees. He looks at the window. There's no leaves on the tree. He got me. He says, I can do the same thing. He says, what's the difference? So I said, what do you mean you can do the same thing? He said, I can tell you 1 second. I looked outside. There's no leaves. I go, I tell him, you're right. That's a good head. That's a good head. He got me. So anyway, so Manuel Diskin answers a beautiful answer. He says like this. When we wear a sisit, a talet katan on Shabbat, let's say, why isn't it why are the fringes, the strings, why isn't that considered carrying? Why isn't it considered carrying? Oh, Hazak Baruch. Not only it's a part of the garment, but it enhances the garment, which means since it's a mitzvah, the tassels are considered a noi. They're considered a beautification of the garment. For example, why is a button not considered carrying on Shabbat? Because that's part of the beged. It serves the beged. Or let's say I have a handkerchief and I sew it into my lapel. Right. That's part of the beged. So anything that cufflinks, all these things are enhancing the beged. So sisit, since it's a mitzvah, it enhances the beged. But let's say it was not a mitzvah, then these strings are extra. So if these strings were extra, then it would be considered carrying. So what did Avraham Avinu do every Shabbat? He put on a talet katan. So therefore, if he's a Yehudi, he has the mitzvah of sisit, and therefore what? It's not considered carrying. But if he's a Ben Noah, then he's already carrying. So therefore, he won't be. He's not fulfilling Shabbat. So by putting on a talet katan, he's able to hedge the bet on both sides. You understand how? Odpam, the sisiyot are only valuable if they have a mitzvah. If not, the extraneous item. What is these strings hanging from your garment? You can carry extra. Can I take my shoe and attach it to my shirt on Shabbat? Walk around with a shoe hanging from my. What's attached? What's attached? What's the purpose of it? No purpose. Similarly, if you have the strings hanging from your garment, what's the purpose? No, the mitzvah, it's noi. What makes it noi? The mitzvah. So they put them on. So he says, if I'm Yehudi, then this is noi. I'm keeping the Shabbat perfectly. And if I'm Ben Noah, then these strings over here don't count. And therefore I'm carrying. Beautiful. Now I'm carrying. I'm allowed to carry. I don't have to carry out Shabbat, so I don't have to worry about the Ben Noah. No. Anyway, on Shabbat, the Ben Ish Chai says, as long as you're wearing a talet katan and you walk into the Bet Knesset. Incidentally, we should point out, when you go into the Bet Knesset, you should say, Va'ani berov hastecha avo betecha ishtahave elecha kodshika biratecha. Some even have the custom to think, Va'ani berov hastecha avo betecha keneged Avraham. Ishtahave elecha kodshika keneged Yitzhak biratecha keneged Yaakov. Which means they actually mention Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov when they enter. Look at your Sidurim, you'll see this pasuk is written in most of the Sidurim before. The next halakha says, where there's goyim or where there's sewage and problems like that, and it's hard to go outside with your talent tefillin, because you're worried about the goyim, or you're worried about the smell, so on and so forth. You can wear it in shul, in the lobby, or in the. You want to see a cute word over here? Look at A32 on the second line. ובכלל חצר בית הכנסת נחשב המסדרון, you see that word? What's that word over there, Victor? On page 32, second line. Page 32, second line.
That one.
Okay, next line, the next word. Halobi. Okay, now you know that's a Hebrew word. They made it in English. Halobi, halobi, I like that one. That's for you. Shelifne, okay, halobi.
איך אומרים בעברית לובי?
Gently, I don't want to know. We say lobby.
תנקלין, לא?
Huh? Tanaklin. Okay.
בעברית.
The Israelis love to do it. They take the English word. They make it Hebrew. They think it's their word. They think it's their word.
בעברית זה פויר.
Again, the vestibule. No, they take the word הם כותבים את זה בעברית וחושבים שהם המציאו את המילה הזאת. זה המילה שלנו. לובי. מה זה לובי? לוביה. Okay, now here's a good question. This happens over a lot. Guy comes to the Beit Knesset. He says, Rabbi, I can't wear my talit at home. My wife will think I'm crazy. The neighbors will think I'm crazy. I'm not driving on Ocean Park with talit tefillin. I can't do that. It's not for me. Okay, fine. And I told you yesterday, the rule number one in the religion is be normal.
Yes.
Remember what I'm telling you? Because people get crazy with all this stuff. And they go off the deep end. The main rule, we saw all our rabbis, as holy as they were normal. They didn't, flaunt all these things. They kept it, in a certain balance. Now you have a guy. He says, "I can't do it at home, but I want to do it in the shul, and I want to do it in the side room." Beauty gets to the shul. Problem is, where's his kuracha? In the shul. So he doesn't want to walk into shul to get his kuracha because once he walks into the shul, he walked in without his talit tefillin on. So the halacha says he should tell somebody else to go into the shul and bring him his kuracha. Now that's a temporary solution. The permanent solution is to keep your kuracha outside the shul. Today they have lockers. Leave it in the locker outside the shul, and therefore you're not going to have the problem. And that's what they're saying. It's a fix for people that don't want to do it the real way. He actually calls it. Look at 19 when he refers to that in the note. This is a compromise invented by necessity. You see what he's calling it? Which means the Zohar doesn't talk about this. The Zohar gives you one option: put it home and leave. But because of necessity, goyim or sewage or other technical reasons, they invented this out of necessity to put it in the lobby or to put it on in another place. Now, let's say you're the first one in the Beit Knesset. You're the first one in the Beit Knesset, so nobody can get your kuracha for you. So then the Ben Ish Chai holds and the poskim hold. You could go into the shul yourself, retrieve it. Don't say Bani Baruch Hastika when you go in the first time. Put it on and then come back. Again, we learned from the Ben Ish Chai yesterday. Rabbi Kassin Abba Shalom, your grandfather Hakam Yaakov had a teshuvan kitzini eretz. What's better, to be the first 10 of the Bet Knesset, or is it better to put your talit and tefillin on at home? Rabbi Kassin sided with the Ben Ish Chai. And he said it's more important to wear your talit and tefillin at home. So they asked the rabbi, but what about being the first 10? Mincha. Come mincha will be from the first 10. Why? We have another time to come to the Beit Knesset. I only show you this to show you how important this is. When we were young, they told us the first 10 of the Beit Knesset, there's nothing. I was in Magen David. Hakam Baruch, my rabbi, he taught us the first 10 is great. Whoever comes after them, the first 10 get credit for every single person that comes after them. So they're like, because they're the anchors of the minyan. And then he said, the first guy who comes, he gets credit for everybody that comes after him. I was 12 years old when I heard this. I couldn't believe such a thing. You tell me if I come the first one. So we had a minyan in the yeshiva, Magen David, 50 Avenue P. It's every day the minyan starts at like 7:40. But I don't drive. We're kids, 12 years old. But I want to get there the first one now. But we have a bus that takes us. So there's no really option. I said to myself, you know something? In my mind, I had some money. I said, tomorrow morning, I'm taking a taxi, 7 o'clock. Not taking no bus. I want to get there the first guy. No, it was open. Archie's there. Kenny, the older guys were there. So now I take the taxi there. I walk in. My friend, I'm not going to say who it is. He also had the same idea. So now we meet at the door. I don't tell him anything. He doesn't tell me anything because I don't want to let him know what my kavanah is. Now, if you remember the old school, you have to walk down a long hallway to get to the binyan. So I'm walking, he's walking, we're walking. We're not looking at each other, but now it's a slow race now. And all the lights are closed. Whoever's going to get there first. I got there first. I opened the door. This is a true story. My friend, he's not my friend after this. He came along. He attacked me. I fell onto the floor. He climbed over me, and he says, I'm the first guy. I went to Baruch. I said, what kind of animals is this guy? But this is what the rabbi meant. There's a normal guy. Yeah, he was so I was the second guy that day. I said, okay, I'm not gonna. So again, I don't think you have to resort to violence like that. But I remember he knocked me down. I was on the floor. Mamash almost at. I was trying to put my hand over the line of scrimmage. Just a touchdown, with the football. But put it over the line to get 6 points.
That's what they got from
100%. I was at the border. My hand didn't reach.
Goal line.
I couldn't reach. He stepped over me. He stepped over me like Haman, like Mordechai. ואתה במותם ותדרוך. המדריכנו על במות אויבינו, ויערם קננו על כוס שונאינו. Anyway, he walked in. He says, I was the first guy.
Gotcha.
I said, good luck. You're going to be the first guy in Gehinnom also. Trust me. Anyway, so that's that one over there. So if you can't get it, you let somebody get it for you. And then
You should put that in here.
I'm giving you the story. I'm giving you the story. Again, in our times, I'm not concerned about mevot and metodafot. If you could do this once in a while, it's a good thing. Huh? Hareyah. Okay. So you're right. You shouldn't make a say on that, but you could drive with your tefillin. You're allowed to. So in the olden days, they used to work with their tefillin. Mizman. You remind yourself, but it does not mean 24 hours. You have to be thinking when you're praying the Amidah. You're thinking about the tefillin. No, not at all. You're thinking about the Amidah, and then after the Amidah, yeah. Okay, we'll stop over here. Yes, question.
When you